Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where and when you're listening to this. Welcome back to episode 13 of the Two Foot Tackle podcast. I'm your host, as always. It's probably never going to change, so I should probably stop saying it, but for continuity's sake, I will continue. I'm your host, Aris Anatakos, and I hope the week treated you not well. I got a haircut, nice skin fade. What else did I do? Footy's back, so for any Australian listeners, footy's back. It was back last week, but I forgot to mention it. It's back this week, and my team, Carlton, are 2-0. So, I mean, I'm on top of the world, to be honest. So, if I'm especially jovial this episode, then you'll know why. I hope the week, regardless of sport, I hope the week treated you well. Hope everything went swimmingly. Before we start, I'd implore you all to like and subscribe on YouTube to Foot Tackle Podcast. That's where most of the content goes on YouTube. So we got obviously full episodes every week and clips as well. So if you want me to listen to only 10 minutes of me talking rather than 50 minutes, then you know where to go. And then of course obviously Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast as well. And then obviously Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not on Facebook yet. I probably won't be on Facebook because it's the last time I checked it was 2022. So at 2 Foot Tackle Podcast on all the platforms, it'll come up. Give it a follow, give it a like on the recent posts, and all engagement, all love is very much appreciated. Now, moving into the podcast itself, there was a whole lot of nothing that happened on the weekend in terms of football because it was obviously international break, and I'll say a whole lot of nothing. There were two main things that happened, but nothing. I was clutching at straws for talking points. So, if this is a slightly shorter episode, if you're to call it that, then you'll know why. Because I literally cannot think of anything to talk about. But what we are going to be talking about is obviously Australia versus Japan and that whole debacle, and I want to pose one question in response to that. Obviously, Italy not making the World Cup. What does that mean? What's next for Italy? I'm just going to speak on Gareth Bale as well. Why Gareth Bale is just so weird. Why does he turn into the best player in the world when he plays for Wales, and then turns into a drop kick when he plays for Real Madrid? And obviously, who went into footed, and then the preview of the week, which is going to be good because there's actually fucking club football to speak about. And with all due respect to international football, I really like international football, but there's just nothing, especially in where we are at the moment with obviously the Premier League coming down to looks to be going to come down to the final day. Serie A with three teams. I mean Juventus as well, technically, if you can put them in there. But you got three teams really who are in the title race, as well as including, that's the badge, this team right here, AC Milan. I love this kit, by the way. Love it. The gold stripes up here, gold star, fucking unreal. Anyway, the reason I'm wearing this is because I think AC Milan are going to win the league, just quietly. But yes, we'll start now, and we'll start with probably the talking point which we're going to speak about for a long period on this podcast. So this might drag on. I'll try not to make it so, but Australia 0, Japan 2. Australia, any faint hopes of Australia automatically qualifying for Qatar 2020 are now dashed. Japan put the final nail in the coffin on a very wet, rainy, miserable night at Sydney Football Stadium. I didn't watch the game, I will be honest. I didn't watch it live anyway, because I was at the football, as I so gloriously said, Carlton are 2-0, which is great. But I was at the football, so I didn't catch it live. Caught a bit in various breaks of play and watched the majority of it. Watched the highlights and watched the majority of the match when I got home the following day. I want to speak about the match first, and then I want to speak about a man who I want to speak about, and we all know who I'm talking about. But the game itself, it was just a shit show. I mean, it was a must-win game for Australia, and Graham Arnold insisted on setting up in the most cowardice way possible. It was long ball to Duke, and hopefully something can happen. Or it's get the ball to Hurstich, and hopefully you can cross it in. It was the most, like I said, cowardice way of setting up in a must-win game. It was a joke. Like, it was a joke. How like embarrassing that was on a national stage. And if it was a game where all we needed was a point or something like that, where we could afford to defend and we could afford to play a little bit more conservatively, then fine. There is logic to setting up like that. But when you have to win the game, when there is no other option than 3 points, why do you set up like a coward? Why does he insist on setting up like we're playing fucking England or Spain or Germany or France? It's like, not that long ago, this Australia were going toe-to-toe with Japan. And Japan are probably the best side in Asia. South Korea as well, probably give them a good run for their money. But historically, Japan, South Korea, and then like Iran as well, who do pretty well, and Saudi Arabia on occasion, right? This Australia team used to go toe-to-toe with Japan and really play them off the park. And maybe with Saudi Arabia, I mean, we beat Saudi Arabia. Not Saudi Arabia, South Korea, right? Asian Cup 2015, we lost to them in the group stage, but we probably should have won. And we beat them in the final. Same goes with Japan. We've beaten them and we've gone toe-to-toe with them before. Yeah, for whatever reason, Graham Arnold was like, no, we're going to play this very conservative. It was almost it was set up as a 4-3-3, but it was really a 4-4-2, if you can call it that. It was very just bland, and it was boring, it was uninspiring, it set Australia up to fail before the game even started with the lineup. I mean, how Mitchell Duke starts when you called up Fornaroli for a must-win game. That was the logic behind calling up Fornaroli, wasn't it? Well, that's what the logic seemed to me, was call him up for these 2 games, maybe even for the World Cup, but he's a proven goal scorer. He'll get you results and he'll score you goals. And you don't start him in one of the biggest games in Australian football history. I mean, you start Ryan Grant and Joel King, which, I mean, okay, whatever. Stensnes. I don't even know Yanni Stensnes. I mean, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He played okay. He was set up to fail, really. And then Metcalf played as well alongside him, who got subbed off at half time. The glaring omission of either Jamie McLaren or Bruno Fornaroli or Jimmy Jego or Craigic or Janaru or Fornaroli or not even D'Agostino being on the bench. Just someone who brings some life. Tilio, my God, why didn't you start Marco Tilio? Why don't you... If you oh my God, he gets me that. I was on the way to the football, right, to the footy. I checked the lineup on my phone, and I wanted to pull my head through the window of the car. I was so angry because he decides to experiment and set up like a fucking coward in the biggest game of Australian football history, well, in modern history anyway. It's baffling to me. And I spoke about it. I said the midfield I'd start in a 4-3-3 was Jago, Hurstich, and Janaru. None of them started. I mean, Hurstich started, but he played on the wing or right side midfield. What? What? I don't get it. I genuinely don't understand the logic. And I mean, speaking about the game itself, first half was pretty good, if you can call it that. It was okay. And then second half was just more of the same. Japan should have scored 4 times, but they didn't. And then we went to open up the game. We bought I think we did bring Fortaroli on. We did bring some attacking players on, but by then, Japan had figured us out. They knew what we were gonna do, and it was just this real slow, depressing end of what has been a underwhelming and abysmal World Cup qualification campaign. It was just absolutely appalling. It was disgraceful. It was fucking shit. Like, put it that way. And I can't believe I watched that game back on my on Thursday, on Friday. I watched that game back and I wanted to slam my head through a it got me so angry, but it is what it is. I mean, the scenario for Australia is obviously we have Saudi Arabia on Wednesday, I think it is, and this episode was meant to be a very intense preview of the Saudi Arabia game because we would have beaten Japan and we would have gone to Saudi Arabia with fighting for our lives. No, I'm not even going to mention that game. I'm not even going to preview it because it's pointless. So we go to Saudi Arabia to play dead rubber, and then we verse either is it Iraq or what's it? Oh my god, the UAE, which, let me just see who it is more likely going to be at this stage. It is going to be the UAE more than likely. If all they need to do is win, and they've got South Korea, so maybe not. Iraq, who do Iraq have? Iraq have Syria. So it might be Iraq. It could even be Lebanon. Oh, they're versing Iran, no worries. Alright, so it's probably going to be Iraq based off the fact that UAE versus South Korea and Iraq versus Syria and Lebanon versus Iran. So probably Iraq. I can't remember Australia versus Iraq in any games. I could be wrong. So that should be a fucking easy game in the biggest quotation marks you can ever imagine. That should be an easy game. And then if we win that versus the fifth place team in not in Uruguay, but in CONMEBOL. No, not in fucking. CONMEBOL. My head is completely gone. But in South America now. At this stage, it is going to be either, by the looks of things, Peru, Colombia, or Chile. It can't be Uruguay. So for that rematch of 2005 and 2001, it can't be Uruguay. But Peru are currently sitting 5th on 21 points. Colombia in 6th on 20 points, and Chile in 7th on 19 points. Now, Peru versus Paraguay at home. So you think they get the job done there. Colombia versus Venezuela away. So you think they'd win as well. And Chile versus Uruguay at home. And Uruguay have already sealed up qualification. So at this stage, you think it'd be Peru. Who we don't want, I can tell you this for sure, we do not want Colombia. If we verse Colombia, we are not making it. I can tell you that for free. Chile are gettable. The very aging Chile squad, very systematic in the way they approach the game. So a player like Tilio or Mobile or McLaren, Herstich, these creative players can provide a spark in that game potentially. And Peru, obviously we are traumatised by Peru in the 2018 World Cup. It's a completely different Peru team. Or maybe not completely different, but it's a different Peru team. Different enough for it to make a difference. So Colombia is the one to avoid. If we verse Colombia, a Colombia team with James Rodriguez, Luis Diaz, we are going to lose and we're going to be embarrassed. I think the game is in Doha. We're going to get absolutely mauled. It's going to be shocking. But so Chile or Peru, I'm leaning towards Peru for the revenge aspect of that game. So for the revenge aspect of that game, I am leaning towards Peru. But I mean, Chile I'll take. Colombia we don't want. And Uruguay we didn't want as well. So I'm happy they automatically qualified. So that is the Australia as a country side of things to one side. Let's speak about Graham Arnold. And I mean, we already spoke about him a little bit before, how he set up in the most cowardly way possible, which I've already said. He has to be sacked. If it's not before the Saudi Arabia game, if it's not by the time this podcast comes live, if it's not after the Saudi Arabia game, he needs to be sacked. Like, you can't, like, his position as a Socceroos football coach is untenable. It is untenable. Look at what he's achieved in 2019 World Cup, 2019 Asian Cup, disaster. Olympics, disgraceful. What even were his tournaments? Can't even remember, because I kind of just tried to block Graham Arnold's history out from fucking the Socceroos, because it's the same thing every single time we fucking play. We go in the first round of qualification and we verse teams like fucking Taiwan and Mongolia and with all due respect, teams that we are so much better than it's not even funny, and we win like 6-0, and everyone's lauding Graham Arnold. Oh, we won. What was it? We won 10 in a row. We won all 10 games in the first round of qualification. That means fuck all. And we've seen it now. That literally means fuck all. It literally means absolutely nothing. So he became so. Let's look at Graham Arnold's history as Australian manager, shall we? In 2006, he was appointed interim coach, and Australia lost in the Asian Cup qualifying to Kuwait 2-0. Good start. So, I mean, for some reason, the FFA were like, yeah, we'll give him the job for the 2007 Asian Cup. No worries. We drew to Oman in the opening game. Good. We lost to Iraq 3-1. Good. And we got beaten by Japan in the penalty shootout in the quarterfinals. Good. So we made the quarterfinals of the Asian Cup. Bearing in mind, this team was one year previous going toe-to-toe with Italy, who won the World Cup the year before, in 2006. Won the World Cup, and we lost because of a fucking dive in the 95th minute. Graham Arnold was like, yeah, I'm going to take this team and lose to Kuwait and draw to fucking Oman. Okay, whatever. That was 2007. He has time to learn. For whatever reason, after 2018 World Cup, we were like, yeah, let's get him back. So what's he done? Let's go. So 2018, 2019, Asian Cup. Disaster. Absolute disaster. No other way to put it. Olympics. Appalling. Losing to Egypt 2-0 in the final game. Should not be happening. If we're a serious footballing nation, should not be happening. I don't care if we beat Argentina. Should not be happening. And the World Cup qualification. Abysmal once again. So yeah, 2019 Asian Cup, a joke. Like 2019 Asian Cup, disgraceful. 2020 Olympics, underwhelming. 2021 World Cup qualification, abysmal once again. Untenable. His position is untenable, and there's no other way to put it. If you are out there defending Graham Arnold, get checked. And I am talking to you, Robbie Slater. And for those who didn't see, Robbie Slater put out an article in some newspaper which no one reads, not defending Graham Arnold, but not explicitly calling for his sacking either. It's a boys' club which, like, the top of Australian football is rotten. Like, it is rotten to the core. It's a boys' club from the very top, and we can't do anything to change it. It's going to be the same people calling the shots. It's going to be the same people criticising the shots. And it's going to be the same regime over and over and over again until something changes. Graham Arnold needs to be sacked immediately from the Socceroos head coach role. And if he could take all the board members from Football Australia with him, that'd be great. Because he is so not fit to coach the Socceroos It is unbelievable. And we get it. He did well with Central Coast. And he did well with Sydney. Congrats, mate. But it's the fucking A-League. It's the A-League. There's been one good coach to come from the A-League, and that's Ange. With all due respect to Muscat and to all these other guys, like Popper as well. Popper went overseas and failed. There's been one coach in 15 years. One homegrown coach in more than 15 years. 05 was it? The last year. Or 05, so 17 years. One homegrown coach to actually be successful outside of this country. And that's Ange. And Ange released an interview. Did an interview with Mark Schwarzer for Up to Sport saying he doesn't feel respected in this country. How ashamed must we have to feel? This is one of our best footballing exports in general. You look at Viduka, you look at Q, you look at Bresciano, you look at fucking Tim Cahill. Great players. Ange Postecoglou, as a footballing export from this country, is right up there. He's transformed Celtic into the best team in Scotland. Yes, I know it's not a very high bar. I understand that, but watch Celtic play. They play some of the fucking best football I've seen. Like, it is unreal how they play. He will go to England. He'll manage a top 6 club, no doubt. He will win a big trophy. Like, he's so good, and he doesn't feel respected from this country. How ashamed must we feel? It's a joke. Absolutely joke. And again, the fish rots from the head. You cannot defend this, not even this coach, but this regime any longer. It needs to change. And does it start with the changing of a head coach? Yes, it does. But it transcends that. There needs to be a holistic view on football in this country, and just revamp it from scratch. It has to be from scratch, because the league's not good enough. The domestic league isn't good enough. The domestic cup isn't taken seriously by most people, and the national team's a disgrace. Yet we have players like Hrstic, Janaru, Jackson Irvine, these players who are going overseas and are killing it. And you have to look at like Kragic, who hasn't even stepped foot in this country. He hasn't played football in this country, I don't think, at any level. And yet he's killing it overseas. And then you have the likes of Christian Volpato, who I know released that stupid Snapchat, which he shouldn't have done, but he's a fucking kid, right? Cut him some slack. He's 19 years old. He just got capped by Italy under 23s. I'm pretty sure if that happened to to any person in the world, their ego would just be inflated just a little bit. But you look at him, he got released from Sydney, both Sydney clubs, and from pretty much New South Wales football as a whole. And he's playing for Italy's under 23s. I think it's under 23s anyway. What's wrong with football in this country? I don't get it. We have 23 million people. Croatia have 3 million people in the country. We have more people in the state of Victoria. And yet they're making World Cups. They've got some of the best players in the world. Why? Why can't we be this footballing powerhouse? Why can't we do it? Like, is it dare I say racism? Because, I mean, you look at football pre-2005 steeped in racism even before it. Like, dare I say, is it that? Is it because it's a foreign game? Sorry, I'm just looking something up. Okay. Yeah, Croatia population. 4 million people. There's literally more people in the state that I fucking live in than in the country of Croatia. And they made the World Cup. Made the World Cup final even. Yeah, like, dare I say, is it racism? Like, is this I'm trying hard not to fucking blow my lid, right? But is this just a systematic, just dysfunctional football system from top to bottom? There has to be a root cause to this. Is it because it's a foreign game that it's not taken seriously by Football Australia itself. It's not taken seriously by the government. It's not taken seriously, and it's not given the funding that it deserves. Because we host the Women's World Cup next year. We're so lucky the Matildas are like semi-good, by the way. We are so lucky the Matildas have their shit together. And they're not even elite. They're not even the best country. They're not even like one of the... Are they top 5 in the world? Maybe not. Probably not. But they're still very good. I mean, we've got Sam Kerr, who's one of the best players in the world. Right? I mean, they did well at the Olympics. They played. They did well. We're so lucky we have the World Cup next year for them. Because I so hope there is hundreds of thousands of people coming to this country to watch it, and then they'll kick fucking Football Australia's ass at the gear and think, oh shit, there's actually a future in this sport. Let's give it the funding it deserves. And it starts from a grassroots level. I want to make that first and foremost. It starts from a grassroots level. $1,000, $2,000 to fucking play for Northcote City, or whatever it is. You have to pay. You have to fucking remortgage your house to play for Bulleen Lions. What is this paying to play football? What is this? That is the dumbest fucking thing I think I've ever heard. Go to every country in Europe. Yeah, alright, you might have to pay because it's a business expense. Business transaction, sorry. Fine. Not like 4 digits. A couple of $100, $200 to put your kid in a team. Fine. Because I understand you need to pay Regio. That's fine. But not $2,000 or $1,000 or these ridiculous sums of money. And there's it's actually cheaper to go overseas. It's actually cheaper to go overseas. This country is so far behind in development of football. It is shocking. And you look at that golden generation. You look at the golden generation from 2006. Newsflash: half of them weren't fucking Australian. Half of them were wogs. Like the man who scored, like Mark Bresciano, like the man who scored the goal, like obviously John always scored the penalty, right? But the man who scored the goal to take or to equalise against Uruguay, fucking Italian, right? He's Italian. He's not Australian. He's Italian. So maybe that golden generation gave this country a false sense of security. But like, I don't even know, man, because it's like, again, it starts from a grassroots level, and it has to change systematically. It has to change because we're slowly losing people to the game. We're losing kids to go and play footy, rugby, cricket. We're losing. We never had them. 05 hit. We made the World Cup. Made the fucking, what is it? Made the A-League. We got that younger generation. We had them, and now we're slowly losing them again. If Australia, like I was born in 04, right? If Australia didn't make the World Cup and the A-League wasn't a thing, I wouldn't be playing soccer. Or I wouldn't have played soccer for my whole, from like since I was 6 till like 16. Like yeah, I'm just so angry at the state of football in this country. It's a joke, and it needs to change. And I kind of moved away from what I was initially going to speak about, but Graham Arnold, right? That was my little rant on football in this country because it needs to change, and it's fucking shit. Football, okay, yeah. So Graham Arnold needs to be sacked. What I was initially going to speak about is who are the next candidates for the Socceroos managerial gig. Now, it's a poison chalice, it seems like, because every Australian that comes in seems to not be able to do the fucking job properly. Ange was our last good one. Before that, it was a shit show, and our only good coach ever is like Gus, and he was Dutch, right? So I've got a list of, how many do I have here? Eight people. I've got 8 people here. I've got 4 who are pipe dreams. I've got 3 who are probably going to get it. And I've got 1 which is my absolute dream. Like, okay. And I think for those who know me and for those who listened to the podcast before and read my article on Stats Insider, you'll know who that final person is, but I'll get to him later. So the 3 which are probably going to get it is Tony Popovich, Patrick Kisnorbo, and Kevin Muscat. They're the 3 who are probably going to get it. And it's because Football Australia has this fascination of, oh, we've got so much good local talent. Fuck that local talent, right? Get the best person. Just get the best guy. Because we're desperate. We're not in a position to pick and choose. We're literally on our knees and we just need to grab anything and we need to grab the best thing. These 3, while they're all good managers and they all have achieved good things in their own rights, aren't personally Socceroos. If we want to be a good footballing nation, these 3 can't manage. Either of these 3 can't manage the Socceroos. But I digress. If I had to pick, I would go with Popper, but I also wouldn't mind seeing Muscat. Kisnorbo, I don't know. I mean, Kisnorbo hasn't really. He's done very well with City. Very well with City. And he's blooded the youth, obviously Tilio and the like. Nathaniel Atkinson as well, who's playing at Hearts now. Yeah, I mean, Kisnorbo actually would be bad because he knows how to fucking coach. And he knows how to blood the youth, which is good. But if I had to, gun to my head, I'd actually think I'd say Muscat, I don't know. Either of those 3 are all in a very, very similar position in terms of why they should get the coach's gig anyway. Now the next 4 are pipe dreams who, if we get them, I will like just explode in happiness. Andre Villas-Boas, Mark Van Bommel, Sam Allardyce, and Joachim Low. Now, Joachim Low, probably never going to happen. I think we can say that. Andre Villas-Boas, out of a job at the moment. Like all these 3 managers are out of a job at the moment. He would... I mean, people give him shit. I think a little bit for what he did at various England clubs. And yeah, he's not necessarily the best manager by any stretch. And he obviously did get sacked by Chelsea and the like, but think about it. He's managed at Chelsea, Tottenham, Marseille. These garden clubs, like really good clubs. I mean, Chelsea and Marseille, good clubs. Tottenham, not so much. But, yeah, so he would obviously be unreal. Mark Van Bommel obviously was once an Australian coach. He was the assistant coach to Bert van Marwijk in the 2018 World Cup, so he already has a little bit of an understanding of Australian football. He could come in and really change things. I wouldn't be against that by any stretch. And then obviously Big Sam Allardyce. Now, people make fun of Sam Allardyce and give him shit and really underestimate his ability as a football coach and as a football person. He's an innovator in football. He was one of the first, especially English managers, to really introduce sports science and data analytics and looking at stats, looking at patterns and looking at maths. Like looking at maths and trying to figure out what's the best system, what's the best tactic, who should play a right back, what passing pattern should we play against this team based on their pressing patterns and etc. He's very underrated, Sam Allardyce, very underrated, and he knows how to get results. And I think at this stage we just need someone to get results. And he's also very influential, so he will come in and change the ship. He'll turn it around and be like, no, this is fucked. I'm fixing it. So I want to be against him. And obviously the man who usually lives in my head rent-free, Marcelo Bielsa. He is, I cannot stress this enough, he's the absolute perfect man for the job. Like, I cannot stress this enough. In my head, there is no candidate in the world who can beat him. Obviously, having Pep would be great, but any available and reasonable candidate, just please do something right, Football Australia. Just get him. And if you obviously, I want to preface this. If you make an offer and he says no, fuck off, then fine, fair enough. You can't do a lot about that. But throw the kitchen sink at him. Just throw it, please. He's a revolutionary manager. Revolutionary. He will change football in this country. I can guarantee that. If you throw the kitchen sink at him and he says no, piss off, then fine, fair enough. You can't do a lot about that. I understand. But, why can't we just, go hell for leather for this guy? Because he is exactly what we need. Exactly what we need. He's influential. He's unbelievable tactical understanding. Has experience on the international stage. Has expressed interest in coaching this country before. That's the most important thing. He can set foundations. He can change the fortunes of Australian football. He sets good precedents with his what was it, that murder ball type thing? Maybe not that, but his high intensity, high tempo, pressing style of game will set us good for whatever manager comes after him. I can guarantee that. He's the man, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm obviously open to suggestions and to have my opinion challenged, but Marcelo Bielsa is the man to coach Socceroos. I cannot stress this enough. He's the perfect candidate, and it's not even close. He has experience on the international stage. He can transform the fortunes of this country. He's so influential, he's so revolutionary that he will change this country's footballing outlook completely. He will do everything and more to get us to where we want to be, to get us to where we thought we'd be this time in 2005. There's no other man for the job, and it's not even close. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, so I think we're done for fucking speaking about Australia, because my head's going to explode if I have to speak about this footballing country ever again. Not ever again, but just for now. Now, speaking of another side who had a very disastrous World Cup qualification campaign, Italy didn't make the World Cup once again. The Azzurri are out, falling 1-0 in the first round of the European qualification. And I think it typified Italy. They should have won, dominated, absolutely it was a demolition job, that game, and they just couldn't find the goal, and it was a very typical Italy performance to put it afterlightly. And I've spoken to some Italian people in the aftermath of that game, for fuck's sake, and the consensus is we'll take the Euro win if we don't qualify for World Cup, which each of their own. I personally wouldn't do that, but this is the second time they haven't qualified for the World Cup, and it's weird. They're in such a weird place because they just won the Euros, right? So they're officially the best team in Europe. I know that's weird to say, but they are, and they didn't qualify for World Cup, so you can't make this drastic change and this drastic top to bottom grassroots level change in Italian football, because we've seen that it works, right? So it must just be a playing squad thing. I think it has to be a playing squad thing, because I tipped them as not favourites, but I thought they'd go far in Euro 2020. So they had that expectation going into it, especially maybe from me, but I think that's the consensus from most other people that were previewing that tournament. They were not favourites, but they were expected to do pretty well, right? and they won it, potentially unexpectedly, but they won it, and they won it well as well. And now they didn't qualify for the World Cup, which they're in such a weird place, like I said, because you have, I mean, for me, my mind goes back to England, where in 2013, they did a radical change. After the 2012 Euros, which was underwhelming, they did a radical change. And the 2010 World Cup, which was abysmal, they did a radical change from top to bottom. Grassroots level, they changed everything. A decade on, we're seeing that come to fruition. We're seeing those changes really come to the fore with the youth. Obviously, Mount, Gallagher, Raheem Sterling's hitting his prime, Harry Kane's hitting his prime, Jack Grealish, Declan Rice. I could go on and on, right? Phil Foden, right? I could go on. And then you see that with Germany as well. You see that in 2000, I think there was that period of 2002 and 2004, so the Euros and the World Cup. I don't think they did too well. I just want to double check that. I want to get my facts right. But there was a period in the early 2000s where they weren't where they wanted to be, right? They were struggling. They were not developing any youth players, and that real 80s and 90s success through the likes of Oliver Kahn and Lothar Matthäus and Gerd Müller, even a little bit earlier than that was slowly coming to an end. So I'm trying to check there. Okay. So in 2006 they've notoriously done well at the World Cup. They came runners up in 2002. But it was the Euros, I'm pretty sure, yeah. In the Euros, they got knocked down in the group stage in the Euros of 2000, 2004. And they made a radical change to their footballing system from top to bottom. The Bundesliga, the second Bundesliga, the DF Pokal, I think that's what their football federation's called, where they made a radical change. Changed everything. Fresh start. 10 years later, they won the World Cup. So, do Italy need to go to that extent? I don't know. Would it be useful for them to make a drastic change, whether that's manager, playing staff, coaching staff, administration, backroom staff? Potentially, I don't think it'd necessarily be a bad thing. But you're looking at the domestic league. There haven't really been dominance as they were in the early mid 2000s. Obviously, mid 2000s, you're looking at AC Milan with one of the best teams ever assembled. In the mid 2000s, obviously Inter Milan was still fantastic. Juventus maybe a little bit earlier than that. So that really set the ground and set the foundations for having an unbelievable international team. And obviously you're looking at it now. Obviously AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus, Napoli are good teams, but not stretch of the imagination are they bad. But Juventus just got knocked out of the Champions League. Inter Milan didn't really have a chance against Liverpool. So, you're looking at these things, right? But I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing in the world for Italy not to make the World Cup, considering they'd won the Euros. If they'd done shit in the Euros and then not made the World Cup, then there's panic stations. But I think Italy need to make a drastic change. Personally, Italy need to make a drastic change to their whole footballing department out of this, because it's not good enough. In isolation, not making the World Cup as Italy is not good enough. And then when you couple that in the fact of they didn't make a last World Cup, and the World Cup before that, they were abysmal. You've had 3 World Cup campaigns which have ended in absolute disaster. There needs to be some form of drastic change to completely turn around the fortunes of that footballing country, because it's historically been so rich and so proud of what they are, and they're slowly losing that. And I understand they won the Euros, and I understand that they've performed well in other tournaments, but they need to break this World Cup duck, and it's going to take something, and I think that they need to change quickly, because it doesn't look good for them. What that change is, I don't know. But they need to make a drastic change. So there's the 2 cents on Italy. We're coming up to 45 minutes, so I spoke about Australia for a long fucking time, didn't I? So we'll quickly skim through the last talking points. And it's Gareth Bale. Now, for those who didn't see Gareth Bale, obviously, I mean, you probably would have seen Gareth Bale kill it for Wales. And he went out in a post-game interview, or like a press conference afterwards and say Gareth Bale or Spain, the critics in Spain should be ashamed of themselves after they criticised Bale. And then after, in this ESPN article, which I should credit, it says, after scoring his goal, Bale celebrated by thumping and kissing the Welsh badge, and when asked in a post-match interview if his celebrations had sent a message, he replied, "I don't need to say anything, it's a waste of my time. It's disgusting, they should be ashamed of themselves. I'm not fussed," end of. Now, I really love Gareth Bale. And for me, the Real Madrid fans are the most selfish fans in the world. Like, Gareth Bale has given them moments that they could only dream of, and yet they still hate him. And they hated him from day one. They never liked him, and he performed and performed and performed. He scored one of the best goals I've ever seen in a Champions League final. One of the best goals I've ever seen, period. And he did it in a Champions League final. And yet they still despise him, and they still hate him so much. I applaud Bale for sticking it to the Real Madrid fans and to the Real Madrid critics and whatever, because that club is a joke. Like, it's abysmal. Like, it's the way that football club's run is fucking shocking, and the way they treat like some of their players is so selfish and so entitled and so just like, I hate it. I hate it so much, and I'm so happy Bale was stuck at Upland, because the Real Madrid fans are the most selfish fans in the world. So good Gareth. I like what you did there, mate. Good. They deserve everything they got. And why does he... And it's also like, I wrote this in my run sheet, but I don't think I necessarily agree with what I wrote. I said, Bale is the best player in the world for Wales, and he's shit for Real Madrid. I don't necessarily think he's shit for Real Madrid, because he, like I said, he scored a bicycle kick in the Champions League final. I don't get how you can think that man isn't a god of your football club. Like from a Chelsea perspective, Kai Havertz and Didier Drogba will live in mortality for the Chelsea Football Club forever. Forever. I think it just started raining, so yeah, I think you can hear that on the mic. So I'll wrap it up quickly. But yeah, so Kai Havertz and Didier Drogba will live in mortality. Like, they are gods amongst men at Stamford Bridge. How Gareth Bale isn't given the same treatment is beyond me. It just shows how selfish Real Madrid fans are, and why they should take a long, hard look at themselves and think, fuck, we have one of the best British players ever, and we're treating them like absolute dog shit. So, basically, long story short, is fuck Real Madrid. I say this very much in jest, however, because I don't want them to knock Chelsea out of the Champions League. So, fuck Real Madrid, but don't bet us. Thanks. So we're going to move on, and we're going to move on swiftly, because it's coming up to 48 minutes, and I don't want to hold everyone for too long. Who went into footed? Now, for those who don't know, for those who aren't aware of what this segment is, it is basically who went into footed. So throughout the week, a club, a player, a team, same thing, a organisation, a coach, a fan, whatever, someone in football did something daft and did something dumb, and we're going to basically just criticise them for it, and we're going to say who went into footed this week. Now, I was going to show the footage, but I don't want to. Actually, I'll see if I can get it up. Now, who went into footed is a Turkish fan who... Yeah, so I've got it here. Is a Turkish fan who... Obviously, Turkey played Portugal and they lost 3-1. But it was 2-1 and it was in the 90... Actually, I won't show the footage. Just go on social media and type. It's on... you'll find it. Just go on Twitter and Instagram. It's not hard. So basically, a Turkish fan was holding a gun to the TV when Burak Yilmaz had a penalty to equalise in the 85th minute. And as we all know, Yilmaz missed. and he shot the gun at the TV and just exploded everything. So, I mean, we all know that the Turkish fans are fucking insane, like mental, but I'm not really sure we thought that they were that insane, because that was really fucking weird. I thought it was fake to start with, but on second look, definitely was not fake. Yeah, so that's who went into footage this week. If you're watching the man who shot the TV, don't shoot your laptop and don't shoot me. So I'm probably not going to come to Turkey anytime soon, so I'll be safe. Yeah, so we're going to preview the week now. Full club football's back, which is good. Obviously, Australia playing Saudi Arabia, but who really gives a fuck about that game anymore? Club football's back. There is any big games, I don't know. Spurs versus Newcastle, which I don't know if that's a big game, but I've just mentioned it. Juventus versus Inter. So that's probably not a title decider, but if Inter win, then Juventus pretty much out of the title race. But if Juventus win, they leapfrog Inter Milan, and they are right in the race again. So they've gone on a good run, gone on a really, really good run. So yeah, there's that, and we don't speak. And then obviously Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, but we will speak before then. So yeah. I'm not really sure anything else needs to be said. Barcelona versus Sevilla. That's an interesting game for second place. But yeah, I'm not really sure there needs to be too much more said. So, thank you all very much for listening. Just ticked over 50 minutes, but thank you all very much for listening. Thank you all very much for watching. Please, once again, like and subscribe on YouTube. 2 Foot Tackle Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Just give it some love. Do it for me. Come on. You know you want to. Yeah, so thank you all very much for watching. I hope the week treats you well. Stay well, stay safe. See you guys next week. Goodbye.